Long ball number one here on Friday, July 25th. I'm Robert. That's Jenny. So this week was the MLS All-Star Game, and part of what that makes it a highlight of the American soccer calendar is the Don Garber and all the owners kind of pal around and weigh in decisions and kind of give a state of the league sort of a thing. So it's kind of in addition to the exhibition spectacle, there's some supposed to be work done, and there we'll get to some of the other stuff later in the show about calendar and rosters and all that. That was all teased this week. But amongst the revelations that came out this week was there was a rare peek behind the MLS ratings curtain. And this used to be something that was always debated over in the ESPN days, but has been a little bit harder to track since the Apple TV deal. The revelation, if you want to call it that, was that Don Garber said that the matches on MLS Season Pass this season are averaging 120,000 unique viewers, which is an increase of 50% last year. But Jenny, you're saying that they're kind of measuring this in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, it's kind of like comparing an apples to oranges sort of things. I mean, sure, you're measuring the amount of people you're watching a match, but they're using different methodologies. That's the interesting part here. The 120,000 unique viewers, Don Garber says, is a 50% increase from last year, but on the surface anyway, it's about a 200,000 person drop from the ESPN days, the last season of which being 2022. They measured, according to their methodology, over 340,000 viewers per MLS match when it was just on ESPN Plus. And you got to kind of take that with a bit of a different lens because of how they're using to measure that. The 340,000 people is more of an average viewer sort of situation at any given time. It's not a straight up, okay, we've had this many unique people watching a specific stream. But it's a difficult thing to really compare. And not only is it the viewing numbers are completely different, but the Apple TV subscription model means that the raw viewership numbers aren't entirely important to the league. They care more about the overall subscriptions because that's where their money comes from. So you look at it, okay, only 120,000 viewers per match doesn't sound really good in terms of just an audience reach sort of situation. But MLS probably is less worried about that because they're getting all the money from the Apple deal, and Apple's getting all the money from the subscriptions, whether or not all these subscribers are watching the games or not.
I mean, it kind of comes back to, okay, so you're thinking that MLS doesn't necessarily care about the eyeballs on each game. They just care about the money? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I know. Big surprise. MLS only cares about how much money they're making out of everything. But it does say something about the health of the league in general. It's like, is that 120,000 viewers per match a lot? We really don't know, just because of how we have kind of inconsistent measurement methods, and we don't have a traditional Nielsen rating system here for these MLS games. So it's really hard to tell. I mean, on one hand, it can sound bad because if you compare it up against the other major sports, I mean, any given Detroit Tigers baseball game gets more than 120,000 people watching it. But at the same time, is that really an apt comparison considering the difference in distribution models and relative popularity of the sports?
Yeah, I mean, when you break it down like a per market thing like you did with the Tigers, that's tricky because I almost consider soccer in that same vein as baseball is like very unique. Other than a handful of like the very, very biggest clubs across the world, soccer to me seems like a localized thing. Not too many sports have just such broad appeal where they can just get the masses, like an NFL game. Like so many NFL fans will watch teams that aren't theirs. Whereas in that Major League Soccer, I don't know if that's true. I think the people that are willing to tune in are probably only mostly interested in their own teams. And as if we've covered at length on this program, that like with Major League Soccer, you know, only really the teams that have cities are actively engaged, and some of the cities that have teams aren't even that either. Right. Trying to pick up the neutral viewer has kind of always been their thing. And 120,000 viewers isn't a ton if you're going for that general market, but within, if it's just your hometown base fans tuning in, that doesn't seem like terrible numbers, but just general visibility. I mean, I know that this has been talked about really throughout the calendar year since that Athletic Anonymous GM survey came out, that the GMs were definitely airing their grievances with the Apple deal. And I know general awareness seems down to me. When it was on ESPN, I would cruise and peruse all them like late night summer games and stuff like that.
Right.
Watch on just on the off availability rather than specific time zones. And I know part of what Apple TV is trying to do is create like, oh, it's Saturday at 7. There's MLS on, right? They're trying to make a habit of having it in single windows, or are they trying to just like narrow cast it even more?
I think they're trying to find some sort of happy medium, something kind of like, honestly, again, this is going to be another apples to oranges. Why am I comparing the two? But I think the model they're kind of going for is kind of an NFL type thing where you have this block of games at 7:00 and it kind of keeps you going throughout the day as the entire league. And that feels, to me anyway, what MLS has been trying to do is kind of NFLize their broadcast, not nearly to the same degree anyway, but they're trying to get that, okay, you tune in at 7:30 on a Saturday to watch your team, or 10:30 if they're playing late night, adjust for time zones as necessary. And then you have your marquee game, your Sunday night soccer game that ends out the weekend. That feels like what they're trying to go for, but just on a much, much smaller scale in the grand scheme of things. And I enjoy some of these comments here. Yes, I understand it's a bit of an apples to orange comparison there. And there's one from Pamit here, hating when the games are all in the same time, force you to watch one game. I kind of have that issue too. I would like a little bit of separation, just so I could watch a little more than, say, 2.5 games per night. Or what I typically end up doing is just watching MLS 360. Like I'm actually curious about, does that 120,000 number, does that include MLS 360? Because it's saying unique viewers per match, but does MLS 360 count as a match? Because normally, at least up until, unless, say, the Portland Timbers are playing, they're the team that I watch most often in MLS, I'm watching MLS 360. So I'm kind of keeping track in every game that's going on. And it's just easier to have MLS to pick the games and me switch back and forth. So I want to know, does that include that? But that, again, speaks to that NFLization of their broadcast model. That's their version of NFL Red Zone. And how many football fans do you talk to that watch NFL Red Zone every Sunday instead of one individual game when it doesn't involve their team?
Yeah, it's definitely the Red Zone, or the MLS 360 is definitely good for the neutral. If you just want to catch essentially the highlights in real time, that's the way to go. And I've enjoyed that a couple times when it's available. I don't have the MLS specific package, but when it's available for free, I think this year it seems like it's been more available than not. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of the general way to view it. So interesting that some rare numbers leaked by Major League Soccer on their viewership, because I don't think they've been super proud of it up until this point.
Well, this is the very first time we've ever heard anything close to a specific number. So no, they're not. Yeah. I guess they're not proud of it.